New York is burning. Sirens scream through a city swallowed by smoke. Buildings collapse like dying giants, and in the heart of the chaos stands Peter Parker, mask torn, hands shaking, eyes wide with a horror he can't web away from. Because this time, he wasn't fast enough. This time, the city he swore to protect is falling because of him, and the world is about to discover what happens when fireman fails. Peter had always believed that as long as he kept moving, swinging, fighting, sacrificing, he could keep New York safe. He had done it so many times that saving the city felt inevitable, like a destiny carved into his bones. But destiny, like webs, can snap. It began with a tremor under Manhattan. At first, people thought it was an earthquake, something natural, something explainable. But Peter felt it immediately, an unnatural pulse, a deliberate shockwave cutting through the foundations of the city. And when he reached the financial district, he found the source, a device buried beneath the streets, humming with a dark, unstable energy. Spider-Man dove toward it, webbing through smoke and debris, trying to reach the core panel. He'd handled bombs before. He'd disarmed Oscorp tech, alien devices, and Stark-level machinery. But the moment he touched this one, something felt wrong. The energy wasn't just explosive, it was alive, reactive, designed to evolve every second. He hesitated. He worked faster, fingers trembling inside his gloves, sweat dripping down his forehead. This wasn't the usual scramble of saving the day. This was racing against a clock that he could feel beating inside his head. Then he heard IT voices above. People trapped in a collapsing building. Their screams cut through him like blades. He hesitated. Just a second. Just long enough for instinct. The hero's instinct to override the plan. He swung upward, webbing onto the crumbling structure, ripping doors off hinges, pulling survivors out as concrete thundered around him. He saved them. But when he landed again, the device's pitch changed. A warning. A countdown. Peter reached out, desperate, voice cracking as he shouted at the machine to give him time he didn't have. And then a blinding white flash, a shockwave tore through the city. Buildings shattered, streets split open, windows disintegrated into razor dust. The force threw Spider-Man into the side of a bus, webs snapping as he crashed to the ground. When he rose, the skyline he'd always known was twisted, burning, missing pieces that had existed minutes before. He staggered forward, unable to breathe. He had saved a handful of people, but he had failed the millions behind them. The city was unrecognizable. Smoke bled into the sky, turning daylight into a dim, ash-choked dusk. Peter stumbled through streets littered with overturned cars and shattered glass, every step echoing with the sounds of distant sirens and cries for help. He tried to steady his breathing, but every twitch of his muscles reminded him that the blast had been no accident. Someone wanted New York broken. As he pushed forward, he sensed movement beneath the rubble, a small sound, a faint cough. Peter hurled aside a concrete slab, adrenaline drowning out the pain, and pulled a trembling child from the wreckage. She clung to him with a desperate grip, and for a moment he felt like Spider-Man, again a symbol, a protector, someone who made things better. But then she asked the question he wasn't prepared for. "Why didn't you stop it?" Peter froze. The words hit harder than the blast. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He gently handed her to the emergency responders and backed away before anyone else could look at him with the same terrified disappointment. He needed answers, or at least someone to blame. And he knew exactly who could design something so volatile, so unpredictable, so cruelly engineered to manipulate his instincts. Oscorp. He swung through the broken skyline, the heat of the fires below licking at his suit, until he reached what was left of the tower. The upper floors had collapsed, leaving steel beams twisted like bones. He forced his way inside, coughing through the thick smoke, until he reached the one room somehow still intact, the lab. Screens flickered with static. Papers were strewn everywhere, and on the central monitor, a message played on loop. "Hello, Peter." The Green Goblin's face filled the screen, distorted, smiling, eyes glowing with manic joy. "You've spent your life saving New York, but every hero needs to learn the same truth. You can't save everyone. So I helped you understand, by taking the city away." Peter's fists clenched, shaking with grief and rage. Goblin continued, savoring every second. "I built that device just for you, Peter. designed it so your great responsibility would become your undoing. You heard those screams, you chose them, and the city paid the price. The feed ended abruptly, leaving Peter staring at his reflection in the dark screen. For the first time in years, he felt afraid of himself. Night fell over a wounded New York, but the darkness brought no comfort. Fires still burned in the distance, casting the city in a hellish glow as Peter perched atop a broken radio tower, trying to gather what remained of his resolve. His mask was torn, his ribs ached with every breath, and his thoughts spiraled endlessly around the same bitter truth. He had played right into the gobliness' hands. Every scream he heard that night twisted deeper into his chest. He replayed the moment over and over. The cries from the collapsing building, the device starting to overload. That fraction of hesitation where instinct overrode logic. Goblin knew him too well, knew exactly how to force his hand, how to turn his greatest virtue into the weapon that destroyed everything he loved. And now, the villain was still out there, somewhere in the ruins, waiting for Peter to break. But Peter couldn't afford to break. With shaking hands, he tuned the half-functioning radio panel beside him, searching for any signal that might lead him to Goblin. Only static answered him until a faint transmission crackled through. Unconfirmed. Goblin sighted. Midtown? Casualties rising. Peter shot to his feet. Midtown was the heart of what was left. Thousands of survivors were gathering there in shelters, desperate for help. If Goblin was attacking it now, then this wasn't over. The blast had only been the beginning. He swung through the ruined city, each Weblin landing with a painful jolt. Below him, the devastation stretched endlessly. Overturned fire trucks, broken street lamps, entire blocks reduced to rubble. People pointed up as he passed, some with hope, many with blame. He could feel their eyes on him, their questions burning holes in his suit. He reached Midtown just in time to see a building explode outward in a plume of green fire. And from the smoke, emerging like some twisted spectre, came the Green Goblin glider, shrieking, bombs crackling with unstable energy. Goblin's laugh cut through the air like a blade. "Peter, look at what we've made together." Spider-Man launched forward, tackling him mid-air. They crashed into the side of a half-destroyed parking structure, rolling through dust and broken concrete. Goblin rose first, grinning. "You're slower," he mocked. "Weaker. Guilt makes a hero heavy." Peter swung a punch fueled by pure desperation, but Goblin dodged effortlessly, slashing across Peter's chest with a jagged blade. Blood seeped through the suit, and Peter staggered back, vision blurring. "New York was never yours to protect," Goblin taunted. "But its destruction, that belongs to you." The words cut deeper than any blade, but when Peter looked around at the terrified families, at the flames inching closer, at the city struggling to survive, something inside him shifted. He couldn't undo the past, he couldn't change the failure, but he could choose what happened next. He steadied himself, fists tightening. This wasn't about saving everyone anymore. This was about stopping the man who had taken everything from them. The flames around them roared higher as if the city itself were demanding an ending. Goblin darted across his glider, hurling another unstable bomb that streaked toward a crowd of survivors. Peter didn't hesitate. He dove, catching the bomb mid-air and slamming it into a chunk of fallen concrete to absorb the blast. The explosion threw him backward, tearing open the wounds already burning across his body, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. He shot a web line and swung directly into Goblin, knocking him off his glider. They crashed onto a shattered rooftop that groaned under their combined weight. Peter's arms trembled as he pulled himself up, but Goblin rose effortlessly, laughing with an almost joyous madness. "Do you hear them, Peter?" he asked. "Screams, the sirens, the collapse of a city that trusted you. That's the music of the truth. Heroes fail, and when they do, the world burns." Peter lunged, driven not by anger, but by a single, brutal clarity. They fought in a blur of fists, metal, and broken masonry. Every strike Peter landed carried the weight of the lives he couldn't save. Every hit he took reminded him of the ones still depending on him now. Goblin slashed him across the faceplate. Peter countered with a punch that sent the villain stumbling back. Goblin laughed again, even through cracked teeth. "You're fighting for ashes." "No," Peter said, voice raw. "I'm fighting for what's left." Goblin's grin faltered. With a sudden burst of strength, Peter webbed Goblin's arms to his sides, spun him around, and slammed him against a collapsed antenna. The villain struggled, thrashing, but Peter pinned him with every last ounce of power he had left. Then Peter looked into his enemy, sized the man, who had taken so much and saw nothing but a void hungry for more destruction. "This ends now," Peter whispered. Goblin snarled. "Then do it. Be the monster you blame yourself for being." Peter tightened his grip, then stepped back, refusing the path. Goblin taunted him. Toward with swift precision, he secured the villain to the wreckage, webbing him layer after layer until the struggle ceased and the city's silence finally swallowed Goblin's voice. Behind them, the sun began to rise over a wounded skyline. Its golden light cut through the smoke, revealing a city battered but not destroyed. Survivors found each other in the ruins. First responders reached those who were trapped. And slowly, painfully, New York breathed. Peter stood at the highest broken edge of the rooftop, staring out. His suit was torn, his body battered, his heart heavy beyond words. He knew the world would question him, blame him, maybe even fear him. But he also knew something else, something Goblin could never take away. He was still needed. He descended to the streets, helping survivors, lifting debris, guiding people towards safety. No speeches, no applause, no forgiveness. Just work. Quiet, relentless, necessary work. Hours later, when the last fire was finally subdued and the rescue operations slowed, Peter climbed to a lonely corner overlooking the city. He removed his mask, letting the cold morning air touch his bruised face. And for the first time since the blast, he allowed himself to cry, not for his failure, but for the chance to rebuild, for the chance to keep fighting, for the chance to be Spider-Man, broken, imperfect, but still standing. New York would never forget what happened. Neither would Peter. The scars on the city were etched into his soul, a constant reminder that even heroes can fall. But failure wasn't the end. It was a beginning forged from pain and determination. In the quiet hours after the devastation, as dawn spread over the battered skyline, Spider-Man made a vow not to erase his mistakes, but to rise above them. Because true heroism isn't about never failing. It's about what you choose to become after you do.